Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Yep. Then it's I don't know how many years are between this, but then we get into the Jurassic World,
Yes. So
which it has a different lead character
Yes.
to in the first one.
Yes.
A couple lead characters, I guess.
Yes.
And you got Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt of Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think that was probably about the same time, which is just what a break for him.
Mhm.
Kind of not really being in that much, and then get into the MCU and the Jurassic franchise in
Right.
just a matter of years.
Right.
Which I just don't understand how things work like that sometimes.
It is weird how he'll somehow just
Yeah.
get a couple big things like that. But
Yeah, so you
you got her or him, and then
and his love interest, Bryce Dallas Howard, Ron Howard's daughter, and she's kind of running this whole business. Is she? I don't know if she's related to Hammond or.
yeah, I don't really understand the relationship, but yeah, I just know that she's kind of in charge of a lot of
Yeah,
things
yeah.
there. You kind of can tell she's.
Yeah.
I think she's
Obsessed
just trying to
with
make it her thing type of thing.
Yeah.
Become very successful
Yeah.
type thing.
Yeah.
And then Chris Pratt's character is just I don't know if you'd say bum, but like a thought of as a guy that's just kind of the what in a zoo would be like maybe the animal trainer or something, something. But he's. I think she would think of herself as.
But I think they
way
had
above
gone
him.
out at one point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they had some history.
Yes, some history. And then, of course, you got to get children involved. So
Right.
she's like, my nephew and niece are here.
So the
Or my two nephews are
fourth
here.
movie in a row where a child does get involved in
Yes.
these horrible things.
Yes, but yeah, in this one you actually see the park or the world up and running, and everyone's coming and visiting and seeing
It
the
looks like-
dinosaurs. And
It looks like Zoo Tycoon. It kind of opens up and you think it's like Zoo Tycoon. It's finished. Everything's going well.
yeah,
Um,
but off in the corner of the island, they're doing experiments because T-Rexes just aren't selling like they used to.
right.
People are getting bored of it,
Right.
which I don't think would ever happen.
No.
So
Especially since the kid in the movie is very fascinated by dinosaurs.
yeah,
And I don't know. In real life, I feel like people still like going to zoos.
Yeah.
It may not be the best thing for animals or whatever. Some are, some aren't.
yeah.
But
I mean, people go to SeaWorld still.
Yeah,
People go to
and-
Disneyland multiple
and I think
times.
most of the time they enjoy it and
Yeah.
stuff. So it's not like people are like, oh, zoos. I don't want to see any elephants or so. I don't. Yeah, like you said, I don't see how it'd be like, oh, not exciting.
It's so 93.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah. Then she needs to make this genetically modified dinosaur. I think it might mix T-Rex and raptor DNA.
Along with a bunch of other
a bunch of other
smaller things like what is some sort of frog,
Yeah.
some
so
sort
that-
of pufferfish.
Yep.
It's a bunch
yep.
of different.
So, something to get it to kind of camouflage itself. Because they're like, wait a minute.
Infrared and
Yeah.
stuff not
Yep.
be seen on that.
Yep. So they put a tracker in it, thankfully, but it's smart enough that it claws that right out, and it kind of lowers its heart rate or something, so they don't sense it in its enclosure. So they send everybody in there, and
Smartly.
Yes.
Even though at that point the tracker was still in it,
Yep.
and they could have literally called someone to find out where
Yeah.
it was on, because
Yeah.
for some reason, So kind of jumping a little bit ahead, but so she was just checking on how this one was doing and how it was progressing, just to see if it was ready for, like, I think it's like some investor thing,
Yeah.
people investing in it that were like pushing, we need bigger, better type things. So instead of just calling the person that she knew she had to go talk to from the place they were in to ask where it was, because you'd think it'd be dangerous to go outside if it was out of its enclosure.
Yeah.
Instead, she drives about partway there, and then calls them anyway.
Yes.
To find out, and like you said, that's when the rest of the people were going into the pen, and that's when she gets the call, or she's talking, it's still in its pen. It just makes me wonder why she even left in the first place.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And also, I feel like that would be breaking. I don't know what their protocols are. But I feel like that'd be breaking their protocols to be going into a dinosaur enclosure with something that dangerous.
Yeah, I would think
Or
so.
any dinosaur, maybe, without.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But, yeah, the dinosaur's too smart. It's camouflaged itself. It's done all these things, and it eats all those people. And I think...
Except Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt's in there, obviously, and he escapes. But so does the dinosaur.
Right.
It gets out, starts massacring all the herbivores that are just roaming about, which is pretty sad, and Chris Pratt's pretty sad about it.
Right.
But
it's not just getting them to eat them. It's
just
literally
hunting them
massacring,
for
just hunting
sport.
them. Yeah.
But one of the other things Chris Pratt has been doing in this movie that's very different and sets the kind of world trilogy apart is that he's actually training the raptors, or kind of building a relationship with them, especially with one called Blue. You've probably heard of her. And just kind of training them, and they listen to him as their alpha. And
or supposed to.
Supposed to, and starting to a little bit. But, of course, they don't always listen.
Right.
And, yeah, so that's kind of also a plot going along here. There's also, we want to use these raptors for the military. And,
Right. So you have to have your one bad guy in there.
The bad guy, even though he's never actually does anything to sabotage.
Right. He's not...
He just has an opinion.
That's what he wants them to be used for, and I think he maybe... I mean, I could see where he'd want that, but at the same time, I feel like he should have seen that even Chris Pratt, who was supposed to be the alpha, there were some times that they weren't listening exactly. So you'd think he would have also been like, oh, well, maybe in a year or two, if these are a little better trained, or we can see that we're actually training them. Yeah. But he doesn't actually do anything to set anything off.
No.
Because he was not one that was going into the cage
and
then opening the cage up. That's how it escaped, because the one guy, some maintenance person, opened the cage up when it was chasing them.
Yes.
And that's how it got loose.
Yep.
He did not do anything with that. He didn't tell that guy to open it up.
No.
But, So, anyway, those are the other pieces of the story. Side of the things going on.
So then starts escaping. I forget what all happens. The kids are going in this kind of on a tour. The one's doesn't really care because he's bored of dinosaurs. He's got more important things.
Women.
Yes.
That's what he had in his life.
So they go in this really cool kind of electronic ball vehicle that can just kind of roll through probably where the herbivores are and roaming about and kind of seeing it just in first person,
right?
Instead of from afar, which is a really cool idea. I really like all the things that they have in the actual final park and when it's up and running. I love it's just like you said, it's kind of like Zoo Tycoon and just seeing it all actually in action.
Yeah, but then they kind of go into a bad part of
or
restricted because the cage is open.
Yes. So then the kind of park starts going. The one guy crashes a helicopter into the bird cage. Nice. I don't know what caused him to crash the helicopter. Because I don't think there was any other dinosaur fighting them.
I do not remember.
I don't remember, but somehow the birds get out and they start attacking all the people in the park. Even the babysitter.
Why did he fly into that?
I don't know, but I forget.
I think he must have ran into some dinosaur or something.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was kind of flying, and then he flew into that.
Yeah. So those get out. I'm not sure the order of all these things. But then the pterodactyls are attacking people, picking them up, picking up the poor person who wasn't even a bad person who was watching the kids. I think she was with them at the time, so this is definitely not the order things went.
Right, because she had lost the kids.
Yeah.
And she probably was not the best babysitter, but still, it wasn't like she was intent. Well, maybe she was intent. I don't know. She was
sabotage.
Right.
But then the birds picking her up and kind of drop her into a giant sea-living dinosaur that eats her.
Yes.
Or no, the bird has her, and that dinosaur jumps up.
Eats her and the bird.
And the bird. Her and the bird.
Right.
Which is
that was something we had seen. Yeah, we had seen that earlier when the kids were kind of watching that. I think that was the only thing that the older kid was excited by a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like a SeaWorld type thing.
Yep.
what they were doing with that.
But yeah, so the kids are rolling in the ball, and then of course the bad dinosaur shows up and starts.
Well, okay. What we just said happened way after what
that
has
happens
happened in the
after
ball.
that.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, then the bad dinosaur
Bad dinosaur
crushes the
ball, and they're running away, trying to get away from it. I think they jump off a waterfall.
They do drop out.
To get away from it, and I think they go into some old Jurassic Park type building, and I'm not sure if it was it the actual kind of where that ended there.
I think so. And then there were some jeeps there.
Yeah, in the kind of the dining area. So they get in one of those jeeps and drive off, and I think reunite.
That's how they get back with
the babysitter, and then obviously, like we said, the pterodactyls get out and start attacking everyone. Chris Pratt and gonna be love interest kind of meet back up there and try to save the day and beat up some pterodactyls. And,
right.
And I think they end up kissing there, which of course she still loves him. She doesn't think he's a loser after all.
Right.
But yeah, so then they do that. Everyone's evacuating, I assume, and then they're like, "How are we going to take care of this dinosaur?" So they need to hunt him down. So they we need to use the raptors that we've been training and hunt down this guy, this big mutant dinosaur.
Well, and actually, the guy who's the bad guy, so to say, who the main woman accuses of saying, she says to him, "You wanted this to happen," and even though maybe he did, he did not do anything to cause it.
No, he did not.
She's blaming him when she's the problem.
Yes, I mean she.
And then he actually says, "Oh, we have our opportunity," sort of, and brings people there to kind of help.
Yeah,
in a way. I mean, obviously it was for selfish reasons, but he brought troops there.
Yeah, I mean,
which apparently they didn't have anyone ready.
Yeah, I mean, I think put that aside. And just get things under control, no matter what his motives are.
Right.
He's actually going to help. But no, she's like, "Yeah, you wanted this. This is your fault." Even though it's completely my fault. Right. You disagreed with me, so it's your fault.
Right.
But yeah, so then they take the raptors out, and they go out to hunt them down. But that dinosaur has raptor DNA.
Right.
So the raptors switch sides.
It communicates with the raptors, and they switch sides.
Yes. So then they start attacking all those soldiers that he brought. And he's like, and Chris Pratt's like, "Blue, how could you do this?" And I think Blue, I don't think she kills him. She doesn't kill him. Well, obviously she doesn't kill him, but I don't think she attacks him.
No, I don't think
kind of just runs off with those other raptors. And then they go back, and I think, I think the raptors do end up killing that bad guy who just wanted to use them for the military. And the big bad dinosaur is there, and then they're like, "How can we ever beat him? Everything's failed." They're like, "You know what we have to do? We have to bring back."
Well, I think did the raptors kind of help a little bit?
Oh yeah,
because they got to the point where it was kind of just their main characters, the bad, and then the raptors, and then the raptors all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think the raptors
were kind of helping.
Yeah,
but then
and the T-Rex failed. Kind of kill most of the, or not the T-Rex, the I don't know what the
Indominus Rex.
Indominus Rex. He kills most of the raptors except for Blue. I think it beats it up a little bit. But they're like, "Well, we have nothing left."
Right.
But we have one left, and I kind of spoiled it. The T-Rex.
So the main woman character brings a flare with heels on.
Yes.
And she goes and tells her one person that she knows in the command to open whatever paddock that the T-Rex is in. And for some reason, I assume the T-Rex's paddock should be pretty large.
Yes.
But it is right there, pretty much. Ready.
I knew you'd come.
So then she uses that, and she's just standing there for a little bit, waiting a little longer than I would have thought.
Yeah.
And then eventually
starts running with the flare. Kind of similar to Jeff Goldblum with the flare leading the T-Rex away, except now we're using it as a weapon.
Right.
To go and battle the Indominus Rex.
Right.
So then you get
then she throws, I think as she gets closer to the Indominus Rex, she kind of throws it towards it, and then T-Rex knows what it has to do, being the baby face in the situation.
Yes, so then they have a pretty epic battle between them, and Blue gets in there as well, and helping out, and Just some
Right.
really cool action. And eventually the T-Rex does kind of throw it over kind of near.
I think that T-Rex kind of was losing,
Yeah.
wasn't it? And
yep.
then Blue, was that when Blue came like running like that weird shot of like, or when did that happen? Blue came like running to the rescue to try to help and kind of fought it off a little bit so then the T-Rex was able to get back up because it looked like it was about to lose.
Oh yeah, that's right. Blue did come and
It was kind of like a
hot
weird
tag or something. Get Blue in there.
Right.
Kind of distracted a little bit. T-Rex gets back up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then starts pushing it towards this area that was near the water.
Yes.
And then the big sea monster thing
Jumps
was also right near its.
Yes.
Well, it wasn't even an entrance to the enclosure. It was just near the enclosure. So this could have happened, I assume, unless something was attached to that they had turned off. Could have happened at any point.
At any
it
time.
could have left up out of the water.
Yes.
But then
jumps
out
up out of the water, grabs the bad dinosaur,
and pulls
him
down.
in. Which is, I think, pretty cool. I think that was a pretty good, for just being dinosaurs versus dinosaurs versus dinosaurs. It was pretty well done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then the T-Rex kind of leaves with respect.
Yes, leaves with respect, walks up and kind of just admires his work, admires the park. I think there's a shot of him kind of
He's on a helicopter pad or something at the end.
Yes.
But, yeah. So I think that's pretty much everything in there in that.
Yeah.
All the main stuff. And, yeah, that leads to the second one of those, the Jurassic World
Fallen Kingdom. Yes. So this one, the park's abandoned. They're done with it. And they learn that the volcano is going to erupt. There's a volcano on the island now, and it's going to erupt. And some people want to save the dinosaurs. Jeff Goldblum and some others say we should just let them go extinct. This is a bad idea to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But money. So let's go and save these dinosaurs. I think they want to do something with Blue, so they get Chris Pratt involved. And of course his lover interest has to go along as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they go and they try to help out. They think helping out, but then they kind of take Chris Pratt off into the woods, and it turns out they have other motives. They want to get these dinosaurs and sell them for money and have an auction type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'd kind of gotten, I think, Chris Pratt to get Blue to come in near them so that they could trank Blue.
Yeah. So then,
and then they tranked Chris Pratt as well.
Yes, they tranked Chris Pratt because they knew he wouldn't stand for it.
Right.
So then they run off with Blue and one of Chris Pratt's sidekicks, which they're just side characters, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So then they go, and then Chris Pratt is kind of coming to from his tranquilization, and he looks, and then there's lava like 5 feet away from him, slowly creeping towards him. So then he's still kind of paralyzed, and he's just flopping around on the ground, trying to get away from it, which I think is probably, for me, one of the funniest. Definitely one of the funniest gags in the entire franchise.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of what you get when you have Chris Pratt as a lead, and it's a little more
he's on
comical.
That, humor side of things. Yeah. So then eventually he does come all the way to, is able to start walking, running.
Starts running, and all the dinosaurs are running, which is just really cool shots as well. Really almost iconic, I would say. Just all running out of the forest and
running away from like the ash of the volcano and the lava or eruption stuff. Running towards the cliffside like we had in
so many cliffs.
Number 2, going back to the second one. Apparently there's just a lot of cliff sides around here. So they keep them on elevated spots so they don't jump into the water, apparently.
Yes. So then Chris Pratt runs into his girlfriend, and they might have broken up at this point again. I'm not sure. It's up and down with them. Roller coaster. So then they get into one of those ball vehicles, and but the door closes. I think some dinosaurs start fighting around him, and they close the door before Chris Pratt can get in. So they kind of roll the ball off the cliff, and he's running behind him trying to keep up, but the ash kind of catches up to him. So they're like, oh no, is he dead? But they go off the cliff, and some dinosaurs go off the cliff too, and they're in the water, and they're sinking. They don't know how to get out of the pod, Chris Pratt jumps in the water, so he's fine.
Right.
And some kind of bits of lava go through the water, land on the pod, burn a hole through it, so now water's coming into the pod as well. And they're like, we can't get it open, we can't get it open. Chris Pratt tries shooting it. I don't know where he got a gun, but he tries shooting it. That doesn't work. So then he just kind of uses a knife to unhinge the door, which
Apparently.
a little easy. Easy. This is after he went up for more air and came back down too, so it's easy.
Right.
So then they get out and kind of, they see the ships are leaving with all the dinosaurs because the island's blowing up.
Or with it, most of them.
Most of them. So then they try to sneak on to the ship by driving a truck that was there. I guess they were going to leave the truck probably just for weight reasons. So they got on there and kind of, as the ship was leaving, kind of ramped it up onto the boat. And no one noticed that they had done this because they weren't supposed to be there. They left them for dead. But no one noticed that they did that. And
Right.
then as they leave, you get the saddest shot in all the franchise. One of those Brontosaurus stuck on the island, left behind. And the only way I can sleep at night is to say that he jumped in the water and he's fine.
And he swam all the way to
Yes.
the next island.
Yes, he's completely fine. He did
He's-
not die.
He's going to be the main character of the eventual 7th film.
Yes, yes. So they get brought to the mainland, to this mansion, where we've kind of been cutting back and forth to with the bad rich guy who's kind of organizing all this, and some old guy who had, I think he's kind of a friend
Hammond or
of
something.
Hammond,
Yeah.
and he had a
From the first
daughter,
one, yeah.
and his daughter died,
Mhm.
but they have a granddaughter,
Mhm.
who I guess it turns out that she's actually a clone of his daughter. As you can see, it was not important to the plot up to this point. It was very added on,
Right.
I think.
I actually did not remember that piece.
Yeah, it was weird to have that in there, but I don't mind it as much as some people. I know some people are like, it's the stupidest thing, and I'm like, it's a dinosaur movie.
All right.
But yeah, so everyone gets to this mansion and they start auctioning off the dinosaurs. They have this new mutant that can follow, and you point a laser at someone, and this one will hunt it down, and it won't stop until that person's dead. I'm like, why didn't you just pull the trigger and kill the person? Why did you need to send a dinosaur after him? You're already pointing at him with a gun. But,
Right.
oh well. But, of course, that terrible evil dinosaur escapes,
Right.
kind of runs through the mansion, starts causing chaos, and everyone, all the heroes are kind of running around the mansion, trying to avoid it, and, well, they kind of get locked up in a cell, and they kind of use dinosaurs
To get free.
Yeah.
One of those with like a
hard skull to
Yeah.
ram through, which was a cool. I like all these movies put a spotlight on unique
some
dinosaurs.
unique dinosaur in some
Yeah.
way. So
So
that's cool. But
yeah, so they escape. Dinosaurs escape chaos, and they get Blue back, and they end up battling this dinosaur with Blue, with Chris Pratt, kind of on the rooftop, the glass rooftop, and end up using the laser to get it to run onto some of the glass. It falls through and gets impaled by some statue, and Blue hops down and stands on top of it victoriously.
even though he did nothing.
Yes. Then they're like, oh, all these dinosaurs are locked up in the building, and there's some poison gas that's going to kill them, and they decide, the clone girl decides to let all the dinosaurs out into the mainland, because they're like her clones, which kind of stupid, but dinosaurs on the mainland is an exciting concept.
Right.
So then the dinosaurs, T-Rex eats the main bad guy, and that's pretty much the end of the movie. There.
Yeah, if you've made it this far, listen to all of them. It's a little bit more of a not as much going on. I feel like maybe at the beginning, but kind of that ending just feels a little weird for a Jurassic Park movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I see what they were doing. They did something different again.
Yeah.
So that's good, but not as much memorable stuff, I think.
I think there's good memorable stuff in that one. I liked kind of the whole running from the volcano, the whole, pretty much everything on the island. I liked quite a bit. A lot of weird stuff back at the mansion, like we said. But I do kind of like that scary dinosaur sneaking around the house. It's kind of a little more scary, kind of like the pterodactyls in the third one and the bird cage. It's kind of maybe the second scariest type of sequence. Kind of because the girl's hiding under the sheets and the dinosaur's got his claws sneaking up, trying to kill her. But yeah, so I don't dislike it as much as some, as you'll see with my rankings. But then on to the most recent, the reason for Dinomania.
Reason for all of this.
The release of Jurassic World Dominion, the epic conclusion to the Jurassic era, even though they've already said we want to make more films. So it's not really a conclusion.
Right.
But yeah, so I guess...
Right, to lead this one
spoilers.
Yeah. Spoilers in this and all the other ones.
Yep.
But yeah, as we get to kind of where the last one left off, but it's just,
a little later, maybe a year later.
Yeah, because then you've got, they kind of start off by saying all of the bigger carnivores had been caught and they weren't roaming, but a lot of the other herbivores and smaller ones were roaming around still. Kind of coexisting with the humans, and they were still talking about whether or not they could coexist or how that was working. So it kind of, what is it? We start with after they kind of explain, they do that kind of explanation of what's happening, where current events are and whatnot. I think then it kind of cuts to the love interest of Chris Pratt. Along with two other people.
Yeah, I think it was the two sidekicks that came with them in the previous movie. Just supporting characters, and in the movie even less in this one, and they're kind of breaking out some dinosaurs from captivity that they'd been testing on or whatever, and I guess I don't know if that really ties into anything, or if that's just pretty much setting up where those characters are. But yeah, so then she goes back to her home, and she's living in a cabin, because they asked her, oh, what's up with you and Chris Pratt? And she's like, oh, it's complicated, whatever. So she goes back to the cabin, and we discover that she's living there in a remote area with Chris Pratt, as well as the clone girl from the previous film, which everyone wanted more of that cloning girl.
If they wouldn't have made reference to it, I probably would have just thought she was just a normal girl. And I probably wouldn't have even remembered that she was from the last film.
Must have rescued a girl. Yeah, so they're kind of living there. They know she's a clone, and some people are out in the world that know that there is a clone girl, and they want to use her and study her and use her for different things. But then we also see that Blue is around, and she has had a baby called Beta, and she just, according to what they put in her DNA, she was able to reproduce all by herself. So we see her, and
she's kind of, for some reason, staying around where Chris Pratt is staying.
She must know. She got a little connection. You got to stay close. But yeah, then of course there's people that
I've been watching, apparently.
Yeah, they have spotted the girl, and the girl's acting up. She's a teenager, so goes out on her bike, and then that's when those people do capture her, as well as Blue's baby.
Baby Beta.
Baby Beta. But yeah, so they bring her to, I forget, what was in Biosyn?
Biosyn or something.
Biosyn, which is, they also showed that at the beginning of the film. There was some obviously horrible, evil guy running this Biosyn company who wants to help the world. And kind of that's, like, right away when they showed that, I'm like, here we go again. Kind of another generic bad guy. Which kind of this movie had been said to be dinosaurs on the mainland, and that's what I wanted from it. So I was a little upset that they were going in that direction. But yeah, so they take Blue, take the girl, and now Chris Pratt has to go and find her. So he goes around, meets up with
his friend,
his old friend who trained raptors with him. They kind of go to a black market area, and which is kind of cool to see kind of what the world is with dinosaurs just out and about, having that kind of underground kind of dinosaur battling, dinosaur selling, different things like that. That was kind of cool to see, a very different feel for the franchise. I think this film feels the most different from any of them.
Right.
So he's doing that. Of course, dinosaurs break loose, and he tries to get some information from the bad guys before they get eaten by dinosaurs. And there's another bad woman who kind of has...
I think she just wanted... She was in it for the money. I don't know what else. But
she has some raptors that have that same laser pointer locking technology from the previous film, where they lock onto a target and they won't stop until they're dead. So she locks that on to Chris Pratt's friend, to Chris Pratt, to the woman. I don't know her character name. Bryce Dallas Howard, Chris Pratt's love interest, and then I think that was a really cool sequence of just the raptors just following them everywhere they go. And it's that shot from the trailer. Chris Pratt's running through the streets on his bike, and there's dinosaurs about eating people. The raptors running around, chasing him, jumping at him. Just really thrilling sequence. Just the exact kind of stuff that I wanted from this movie.
But then that ended decently quickly.
Yeah, I mean, well, that sequence was pretty long.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah,
but,
and there were some good parts up until then. But then he does get onto a plane, and then they're going to this biosyn place, and then it's just like, okay, so we're kind of apart from Jurassic World and just going to a Jurassic Park now.
Right.
And this whole time, you got Dr. Ellie Sattler coming back. Recruiting Alan Grant. Remembered his first name now, finally. We're just calling him Grant. Because there are some locusts that are...
A side story that we haven't brought up to this point.
Sadly...
Locusts eating the fields.
Sadly, this story is very important to the film. Locusts have been eating the crops, except they haven't been eating the biosyn crops.
Right.
So there's something up here, and this is when Alan Grant needs to get involved.
Right.
So they're like, will you help me sneak into biosyn, Grant? And then you find out that she is divorced, because her and Alan had never really gotten together. So you're like, okay, I see where this is going. They're going to end up together.
Right.
So they kind of go there for a tour, and you see Jeff Goldblum's character is there, kind of as a professor type of thing, kind of just teaching different kids about, oh, you make the future with this or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, we think something's up here, and he's like, oh, no, it's great here. And then, of course, there's cameras watching, so while there's a distraction, he's able to hand them a key card or whatever and say, if something terrible's happened, your suspicions are right, go and get some samples and show it to the world.
Right.
So it's like, okay, something is bad here, which we all knew there was.
Right. Especially when there was the Tim Cook CEO character, bad evil guy.
Yeah.
Who you know is bad.
Yeah.
They're very suspicious.
Yeah. And one half he's very generic, but in the other half he's odd. He's portrayed very odd. Like
he never really gets full villain. I don't know what.
Yeah.
You can't really tell what's...
Yeah.
Doesn't really...
Yeah. Some just weird acting characters in this. I know you thought some people were possibly clones, and they didn't turn out to be anything like that, but there's just something odd that you thought something was happening.
Right. Because he's like, oh, I'm going to eat these energy, or these bars. Do you have any of these on you, or whatever?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, something is wrong here, or something. And then he's talking to the one guy as if... like, oh, you're supposed to be me, or whatever. So I'm like, oh, okay, so there's something with the clone thing, that's why they want the girl.
Yeah. But no.
You're just waiting, I'm waiting for it.
Yeah.
Never answers that question, so I'm just like, yeah, I don't know if he was just an awkward character, or...
Yeah. So, then, Dr. Ellie Sadler and Grant kind of sneak around with this key card and get into the Locust Lab and to get samples to prove that the ones that are out eating the world's food are the ones that came from Biosyn, to kind of bring them down. So they get the sample and everything goes crazy and they just barely escape with their lives.
Right.
And then they end up being seen by the clone girl, who I don't know how she got free. She freed Baby Blue,
Yes.
which caused chaos that let her sneak out, and she's kind of met up with Grant and Sadler as well at this point.
Now
So
we kind of cut back to
Chris
the people
Pratt
on the plane.
with a new character that kind of grew a conscience, had seen the girl be kind of trafficked or whatever to Biosyn, and decided to side with Chris Pratt and the woman, Bryce Dallas Howard. Gotta learn the character's name, 'cause that's way too long to say. Then they see that this plane is incoming at Biosyn, so they turn off some air
Defense thing.
air defense that prevents flying dinosaurs from attacking incoming planes, so they turn that off to kind of shoot down this plane in a way, which it does. They eject Bryce Dallas Howard out.
Right. She's the only one that can eject because that's the only seat. And then, even though she ejects, she immediately gets attacked by the birds.
Yes.
Because, the plane was going down or whatever, and then she has to eject another parachute.
Yeah.
And that could attack too?
I think the
no,
first parachute
it didn't go out. Yeah.
Yeah, so the first parachute got destroyed, and then she was just free falling, which brought her down quite a ways away from those birds, and then she pulled it right before she got to the trees. She was kind of hung up in the trees.
Yeah.
So she's kind of roaming about and runs into this terrifying dinosaur. I forget what name you came up for it.
I don't remember what I called it either.
I think it's blind, we thought.
Yeah, we couldn't tell that either if it was blind, because it kind of went around her.
Yeah.
And then it's also got these claws and just
huge
somehow
claws.
Crept up on a deer,
Yeah.
even though deer didn't seem spooked at all, even though it was a huge dinosaur, so it would have hurt it.
Yeah.
It just pretty much cuts it in half.
Smacks the...
And doesn't even eat it.
No. Hunting for prey. Hunting for sport. Not
Right.
prey. But yeah, it's got feathers. Very creepy dinosaur.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then she just barely escapes.
The night horror.
In the night horror.
It doesn't even fully look like a dinosaur, I don't think.
No.
I mean, maybe dinosaurs look like that, but
yeah,
it didn't look like the general portrayal of
No,
dinosaurs,
no.
I didn't think.
Yes. If a kid says, "Oh, I want a dinosaur-themed room," this is not one you're going to sticker on the wall.
Right.
But yeah, so then she kind of runs away and sneaks away from that one. And Chris Pratt and the pilot kind of have landed on this water that's frozen.
I like how you say
pond.
landed.
They crashed.
They crashed. Had no injuries.
No injuries.
No wounds from crashing
Nope.
a plane.
Nope.
Feet into
The plane-
some ice.
The plane didn't go under, didn't go in the water. But the
Right.
ice is thin, so they got to be careful when they walk.
Right, they immediately get out of the plane, fine.
Yes.
But then they're immediately worried about the ice cracking.
Yes,
Even
yes.
though their plane just crashed into it and did not go through.
Yes. And then they run into this weird dinosaur. I don't know what it is.
I don't know, something with
But it does
feathers
a
and-
little dance and then dives through into the water
Mhm.
and kind of is swimming down below them.
Mhm.
So then I think it does. They start running,
Mhm.
and then Chris Pratt falls into the
For
water.
some reason they jump.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why they had to jump. It seemed like they were running, but then all of a sudden they felt like they had to jump, but there was really no reason for it. And when that jump happened is when Chris Pratt went through the water, or through the ice.
Yeah.
And I was wondering at first why he jumped. 'Cause I don't think he was jumping over something.
I don't know if there was. I don't think there would be any hole or anything that he would jump over.
No. I thought it was more of a jump than... Maybe it was supposed to be running, but it looked more like they were jumping. And I didn't know why.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Anyway, he falls through
Falls
the
through
ice.
the water and
Monsters
swimming around.
Monster
and-
dinosaur.
the monster. They're turning into monsters. But then it's swimming around and it's coming for him. And it's like, oh no, he's not going to get up. But then somehow, just extremely quickly, he gets pulled out of the water.
Right.
Where I'm like, I think it was past the point where he could get out
Right.
and escape. But it's a movie, so pilot pulls him out. And
Right. I don't think even if you had the strongest person, they could pull someone out that quickly.
Yeah.
Out of water.
out
anyway,
of water.
On thin ice.
Because, yeah, she's a woman pulling a grown, soaking wet man
Right.
out of water.
I mean, yeah, he had to be... soaking wet, lifting 300 plus
Yeah.
pounds then,
Yeah.
probably.
Yep.
On thin ice already that he
Yes.
just broke through,
Yes.
right where he broke through.
Yes.
Couple things don't add
Yeah,
up there, but
But then they go and they kind of run away from the dinosaur a little more and kind of get into an elevator and escape.
just as it's
yes.
getting right there.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then, I guess, what happens next? I guess the kind of right-hand man to the Biosyn leader, the Tim Cook, he turns out to be good and not really in on this corruption. He had been working with Jeff Goldblum, and he kind of helps Sattler and Grant and the clone, and they get on some subway system to get out and escape. But then, of course, Tim Cook sees this. We're just going to keep calling him that. He sees this and shuts down the subway system, so that they have to get out of the train, and they go into
this cave area,
these amber mines, and there's some more monstrous dinosaurs there.
Right.
Grant is climbing up a ladder and sees one, and it spooks him, and he falls like 15 feet onto his back.
Onto rocks.
Onto rocks. And he's like a 70-year-old man at this point, and he's fine.
He just walks it off.
But yeah, then he's running. He goes back to pick up his hat. I guess I don't know why.
For some reason, I was.
Then I don't think he wears it later.
I'm not sure, because at the time I thought, well, maybe that's where they stored that whatever DNA of the thing, but they didn't make reference to that's where he kept it, so I don't know why he needed the hat.
Oh yeah, I guess he just wanted it. Wanted to look like Indiana
Maybe it was
Jones.
there. Maybe it. See, I feel like maybe there were some extra things in here that they might have taken out that would have made some of these things make a little more sense, but I don't know.
Maybe.
I just don't know why they wouldn't have just taken some of these scenes out to make, because it was 2.5 hours, so it's a longer movie. But
yeah.
So
and the Asian scientist from the first movie, V.D. Wong, is back, and there's this whole thing of he feels bad about the locust doing these horrible things, so he wants to use the clone girl to fix that and do something. There's the whole thing about the clone girl's mother, who actually did give birth to her, and she had the sickness, but she was able to cure her daughter, and he thinks with that cloning DNA technology, he can kill all these locusts. So yeah, the locusts kind of drive the whole story, sadly.
Right.
But yeah, so then Bryce Dallas Howard gets to this weird bunker, treehouse area.
I don't know what it was exactly.
She knew was there. So then she's trying to open it up, and then those same those same dinosaurs that killed Newman, I forget his character name, Dodgson, or I don't know what it was, from the first film that kind of spit that acid into the face. They start creeping up on her. Instead of waiting and climbing up the ladder, she's like, I'm just going to stand over
and
here.
Not do anything.
And not do anything. So then they sneak up and they start doing their shh, about to spit at her. And then Chris Pratt just grums up and grabs it by the neck. Prevents it from doing that. So I guess she was just going to accept death.
Right.
If they didn't show up at that exact moment.
Right.
But yeah, so they show up and they start to, I guess, although then at the same time, Tim Cook is trying to destroy the locust evidence, so he burns it. And
he starts the thing on, so because it's like nests
fire.
of locusts in this room.
In a lab,
It starts it on fire. It all starts on fire, and then they're like, the locusts aren't dying, and they're just a fireball of locusts, and then somehow something blows off the top of through the roof or something, and they all are escaping. It's just this fiery.
And that lab seems like the most central part of the building.
Right. So I don't know what
somehow they get through the whole entire roof of the building on fire. Locusts.
Right. So then
up.
you got shots of almost what looks like meteors.
Yes.
Falling down, starting the whole
forest on
fire. Dinosaurs running
wild
around, trying to get away from it.
Yes. And then Grant and Sattler are kind of in this tunnel again, and trying to get out, and they get to this locked door, and Goldblum shows up, and he's again making jokes. Like, let's try to stay calm now, because there's this horrible dinosaur behind them trying to kill him.
Right.
And he's trying to get the keypad,
He doesn't know what the code is.
He doesn't know what the code is, so he's just like trying to, 10,000 combinations. Just try this one, try this one. And I think the guy who was his friend had actually overridden it.
Mm-hmm.
So Goldblum thinks that, it works, I got it, but it's actually his friend that did open the door remotely.
Mm-hmm.
So then they get out and kind of join up with the rest of the crew. So you're going to see the whole Jurassic Park crew and the Jurassic World crew kind of meet up, and it was
pretty
cool.
Right, especially since at the same time it was kind of the locust raining down, so you got all that all happening all at once.
Yes.
Kind of crescendoing, and then as that happened,
the biggest dinosaur, the Gigantosaurus, shows up. And they're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to get away from this one? We got to get into that bunker.
Right.
That will be the safest place to be.
Exactly.
So then it's kind of, they're hiding behind the car, similar to the first film.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of Easter eggs in the film for previous films. It's kind of nudging the car, and Jeff Goldblum gets in the car that's like upside down, and they all kind of make a run for the ladder to get in the bunker, and it follows them there and tries to attack them. And
luckily there was the cage around a piece of it.
Yes. Otherwise the clone girl, I think it was in there at the time.
Right.
She would have been toast.
Right. But instead it just rips the piece of the cage off, but doesn't affect the ladder at all.
Yes.
The clone girl gets out
there for a reason. But yeah, so then people are getting up, and then Jeff Goldblum,
who was still in the car.
Yes.
Or he'd crawled into the car for some reason.
Yes.
I don't remember why.
So then he's like, I need to make a distraction for these people. And I didn't know, I'm like, is Jeff Goldblum going to die here?
I thought he might.
I'm like, I feel like they might want to kill someone off here, just as the epic conclusion.
Right.
So he gets a stick from something and impales one of these fiery locusts.
Right. So he's got a fire stick.
A stick with the flaming locust. And he's waving that to distract the dinosaur away from his friends.
Which luckily works.
Yes. And then
you think, because that's when I thought, he's going to die, or something's going to happen.
Run away, he's going to do something.
Mm-hmm. Nope. He stands his ground, and he throws it like a spear.
Javelin.
Into the Gigantosaurus' mouth.
And it explodes for some reason in its mouth. Just a big flame.
Right.
I don't know what was inside that locust.
Right. Then it looked like he was breathing fire. It almost made him a dragon.
Yes.
And then while that's happening, Jeff Goldblum's kind of running towards
to that ladder. So everyone's kind of coming up on that ladder, getting into the bunker. And then I think Jeff Goldblum kind of slips, but Grant takes his hand.
For some reason, Grant's back there, even though it's been, I feel like a weird amount of time that they should have all been pretty much almost into the bunker at that point.
But then they would be farthest back to the door, you would think.
Right.
But then you pointed out, I didn't notice it, but the Gigantosaurus starts chewing at the walkway.
Mm-hmm.
And
furthest back, kind of.
Yeah, furthest back, and then it's Ellie Sattler and Chris Pratt are the furthest back then. Even though Grant and Goldblum were right by the ladder right before that.
So apparently no one was trying to get into the place.
Yes. So yeah, then he saves her, and then everybody gets into the bunker, and you're safe there. Nope. Gigantosaurus just kind of sticks his head through the glass.
Right.
And
then they kind of, I think Chris Pratt tries to use a knife against
he tries
it.
Stabbing it with a knife.
Someone uses one of those sticks.
Tasers. Yeah.
And then it kind of goes away.
It goes away, yes.
Which, that taser, I think, had been used earlier on a person.
Yeah, and it kind of shot him across the room a little bit.
So, I don't know how much charge that's supposed to have, but apparently quite dangerous.
Yes.
But then they get...
So I think they must get back to the base.
They go underground or something?
Yeah.
They got tunnels or something?
Yeah, it does have a tunnel, and they go back underground.
Another thing, Tim Cook had said earlier that the dinosaurs all had something that allowed them to make the dinosaurs kind of do what they wanted, control
where they go. So they're kind of all luring them back to this central location to get away from the fires, which is a great idea. Just bring carnivores, herbivores into one place.
One small
I
enclosure.
guess they're all carnivores. Are they all carnivores on this island?
See, I wasn't sure because I thought when it was like showing the locusts and stuff, I thought it was showing herbivores there.
Yeah.
So I don't really know.
Oh yeah, there were herbivores.
So I don't know. They had a mixture, I think. Somehow they were coexisting there.
Yes. So they're bringing them all back to the central location. I don't know how they get in there. It seemed like a pretty enclosed place.
Right.
But then all the good guys get back there. And the clone girl decides now, I want to help this BD Wong do his thing, and he feels remorse, and I want to help him cure this locust plague.
Even though he's done nothing but help cause the chaos in every film he gets away. Was it Goldblum or Grant? What was the one that said, we're not bringing that guy with?
Yes, I think multiple of them have said things like when they see him in scenes.
Right.
But yeah, I think Goldblum definitely was not a fan. But Clone Girl does what she wants, so they had to bring him along. And kind of around this time, Tim Cook tries to escape for himself. He gets into the subway pod, and you know that he's gonna die for sure.
Just how is he gonna die, type thing.
Yeah. And just before this, his sidekick had revealed that he had kind of sabotaged him a little bit. Did more sabotage than the guy in the first Jurassic World film ever did.
Right.
But oh well. But yeah, then he ends up, subway car shuts down because I think they had to redirect power to one area to
some reason
escape. So then his shuts down.
Oh no, it shut down because those girls were in that room with the locusts originally that were all on the ground.
Yeah.
And they had to cut off all the power.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Because they had to do that while also Chris Pratt and company were getting Beta Blue.
Oh, yes. Yeah, because they were hunting Beta Blue, and they had to bring Grant along for some reason, and the clone.
Chris Pratt clone.
And
and then she used the old no raptor. Swiper no swiping. Beta no swiping.
Beta no biting.
And then they somehow triangulated or whatever. Chris Pratt's got this trank
like,
for
I gotta
it.
hit it on the side of the neck.
And I felt like it was as good a shot as he was going to get. And he's just waiting and waiting. And then the dinosaur, and then Beta charges. And that's when he decides to shoot.
Yes.
I'm like, I feel like you would have taken your shot there.
He just wanted to show off how good a shot he was.
Right. But
so then he kind of straps Beta on the back, on his back, and its little head is resting on his shoulder. Pretty cute, I think. They need to make a Funko Pop of that.
that was the same time that they kind of got that BD Wong or whatever. And Tim Cook ended up
into the subway, gets killed by those acid-spitting monsters.
From the first one. It was similar because he had that same Barbasol can from the first one.
Yep. Somehow he had gotten it. Maybe he had bought some more before we saw, and that was just how he snuck it out every time. But yeah. So he's dead, as usual. Happens. And then
they're trying to escape. Or kind of fly off, I think.
Yeah.
Was their plan at that point. And, obviously then the only place that the helicopter or whatever they wanted to get into was
right where they bring all those dinosaurs back into.
So then we re-meet up with the Gigantosaurus.
Yes.
Who is not happy.
He is not happy. He's like, I remember you. You threw a damn flaming locust spear into my mouth.
That's what he said. Right to Goldblum. And then I was like, maybe someone will die here. Well, who I thought BD Wong was going to die then. At that point, I'm like, okay, they're just going to kill his character. They did not.
They did not.
And then the T-Rex came, obviously.
T-Rex
if you've watched the other... So far, the T-Rex always has been kind of the baby face.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Blue is kind of one of the baby face dinosaurs, but the T-Rex, I think, is even more baby face because Blue kind of still is kind of a tweener.
Yeah.
But then T-Rex is like, oh, I'm going to battle. I think it had lost a fight versus it earlier on in the film. I don't remember when that happened. I don't think we mentioned it, but he did lose the fight.
The Gigantosaurus came back for that deer that one monster had killed. One monster, the Shadow Demon, whatever it is,
Night Horror.
The Night Horror that had killed. The T-Rex was coming to eat that deer, and then the Gigantosaur came and kind of intimidated it and sent it off and ate it itself.
Right.
So it's kind of built it up that Gigantosaur, he's the alpha
Mhm.
here. But the T-Rex sees that he recognizes, I assume that it's the same T-Rex from the first Jurassic
Right.
Park. We just like to think that, at least.
Right.
So it's like, there's my friend Jeff Goldblum. we go way back.
Right.
Dr. Sadler, Grant.
Maybe it was the baby one.
Oh,
they
it could have
appealed.
been the baby one. It might have been.
Well,
No, that was yeah. I don't know. There's multiple
idea.
islands. I'm not sure. Someone confirm what T-Rex
I don't
this
know.
is. If this is the same one,
But yeah.
that'd be pretty cool if it was the baby one.
It would be, but I have no
Because
idea.
Jeff Goldblum saved it, and it comes.
Well, sort of.
Yeah, he didn't want to.
Right.
He wanted to leave it.
But yeah, it would be cool if that was the whole
Yeah.
thing. But I
Yeah.
have no idea if that
Yeah.
is, or if it's a whole other T-Rex altogether, just
Yeah.
from the whole world one. I
Yeah.
assume the world one is the same T-Rex throughout.
Yeah, I think
But
so.
yeah, I don't know if it is connected to the original at all. I
Yeah.
don't know. But yeah, so it's T-Rex is obviously losing the fight,
Yeah.
kind of like it did in the first Jurassic World
Yeah.
against this one.
And they even go a little further. It kind of bites it real good and
Mhm.
throws it down on a slab of concrete, and it kind of looks over its eye, and it's just kind of still.
Right, because then it's kind of dark.
Yeah.
You can't really tell. But yeah, the camera's just looking at the T-Rex eye.
Yeah.
Because, you really know it's like, who else is going to kill the Gigantosaurus? And then, of course, it keeps like, I don't remember what exactly, like, there's like some shadow going over kind of the face
yeah.
and kind of going back and forth, and its eyes close, and then all of a sudden it pops open. The T-Rex is still very much alive.
Very alive.
And then is able to fight some more,
Yes.
and is kind of going toe-to-toe with the Gigantosaurus. And then it gets help from its buddy that we saw earlier in the film, the Night Horror.
The night horror.
Sticks out its whatever claws they are, and they just kind of... The T-Rex is very good at shoving
Yes.
them into other monsters, but just shoved it right into there,
And
pierced
it
through
impales
it.
it. I think a very, very good use.
Mhm.
I kind of like how those three dinosaurs just carried through kind of the whole second half of the film.
Mhm.
You see that kind of as an enemy. The two T-Rex Gigantosaurus fight over the deer,
Mhm.
and it kind of just all comes full circle
Mhm.
when it gets impaled by those tongs and
Right.
and they finish him off. I don't know if he gives them another bite or so, but yeah. So they slay the Gigantosaurus.
Yes.
And of course, whenever you slay the big bad, the other carnivores do not go after the people at all. The T-Rex is like, I'm good, again. And he
Right.
lets all the people go onto the helicopter,
And they get
and
away.
they get away.
And then they kind of do some end stuff where things...
Cure the locust
Right.
very easily.
Yes, they release one locust with B.D. Wong's new clone thing, whatever, to fix the rest of this
Kill them.
swarm of locusts. Apparently it's just one swarm of them,
Yes.
because he only released into one group. But I don't know.
Science.
Maybe that's... I'm not a scientist, so maybe that is how they do things. I have no idea, but it seemed very... Like, oh, okay, what happens if that one, like, dies, like, almost
Yeah.
immediately, or something happens to
Goes
it?
up and a bird just snatches it.
Right.
Tear it out.
But, yeah, so, anyway, I mean, and then it kind of ties up that,
Yeah.
I think, like, Grant and
Oh yeah, they do end up.
Settler kind of...
They kiss.
Right.
So they're finally a thing together,
Mhm.
which I think is good. I think a lot of people wanted to see. I know back in the other films, especially the third one, when she's married and has kids, it's like, kind of
Mhm.
thought they would end up together. And
Mhm.
so they're going to be together and go try to change how things are, I guess, how
Mhm.
dinosaurs are dealt with. And then, yeah, we go back to the cabin, and Chris Pratt returns. Baby Beta.
Baby Beta Blue.
Baby Beta Blue to her mother, and I thought that was a really nice scene, because I think that's probably the best relationship of this trilogy is
Right.
Blue and Chris Pratt.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, because then they kind of run off, and then it does one more thing of Blue coming back and kind of looking
Kinda looking at
at
him.
each other, and then runs off again, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I don't know what happens with the clone girl and stuff, but
They live happily ever after.
what happens with Goldblum? he go talk to Kung? I don't remember.
Yeah,
But yeah, it just kind of ties up some of that stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the end of the whole thing.
Kind of that movie. So.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if it'll set up another one. I think if they did, I think they would just start like almost fresh.
Yeah,
completely.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think I'd heard this is kind of the conclusion of that trilogy for sure, and they plan more in the future, just with humans coexisting with dinosaurs. They kind of show a montage of, oh, look, all the dinosaurs are coexisting, the herbivores and stuff, like you got buffalo and some of the other dinosaurs. So it's interesting. I'd be interested to see more with that.
Just the scary part is how Blue and Beta can apparently reproduce without needing other raptors. So eventually you could potentially have a big herd of... Because the betas, or if the babies are always going to be a clone of the mother or whatever, it's always going to be mothers, and they're just going to keep reproducing. Eventually you're going to have a problem.
The Blue Horde.
The Blue Horde. You're going to need an old Chris Pratt.
Yes.
Come out of retirement.
70-year-old Chris Pratt, 90-year-old Sam Neill as Alan Grant. And I don't know what young actor will be taking over the franchise.
We'll have to find out. Yeah, that's pretty much all of Jurassic Park.
All of the franchise.
Oof, that was a lot.
It was a lot. 2 hours into this.